Hey Steelers Nation, Joe Rockey with the Pittsburgh Syndicate here. Just a few hours ago, Witherspoon got officially cut from the Pittsburgh Steelers. We're going to break down what the timing of this means, what we can use and infer from this action moving forward, and all the great things that this could mean for the secondary. But before I begin, as I've been asking for a while now, if you have a contact person at any of the Pittsburgh Steelers players' causes or foundations, please click this little link right here because I'm going to want to contact the individual person there. So please let me know who it is so I can talk to them because I really want to line all of these up, as many as possible, to have a great conversation and really expose who's doing what in Steelers Nation and how much they're benefiting all of us around them. But that being said, let's dive into Witherspoon. To me, the timing of it tells us a lot in the inference category. So first off, a little backup on Spoon. Before Spoon came here, he was putting up numbers at an all-pro level. He was performing with a great quarterback rating against, a great completion rated allowed, and he was very good. When he was here, he was marred by injury. And as I've been saying kind of for the last month and a half or so, is that he was the wild card when we looked at the outside corner position. If he would have come back healthy, back to all-pro level, that's a giant wild card. But obviously that's not going to be happening because they cut him. So the Steelers have more information on what his medicals are going to be than anyone else would. That's just a fact of life. But what I find this particularly interesting is that this is immediately after the rookie minicamp. So this tells me two things. When we look at the Steelers' cornerback roster right now of quality starters that we know we have on the team, and I am counting Peterson in this because of a legacy thing, even though he hasn't done for Tomlin. We basically have Peterson and we have Levi Wallace, right? So those two are legit in there and pretty much established. Pierre has never really taken off and been great, and he's right now, in terms of your veterans under Tomlin, the third best. But we just had rookie minicamp. And to me, this says the Steelers are ecstatic and all but sold on Porter Jr. And to me, because I know how much Tomlin loves depth and experience, it also strongly implies that Cory Trice might actually be a pretty good winner. So the thing with Trice, remember, is that he got injured, so he doesn't have a whole lot of tape his senior year, but he did have a decent combine, but he refused to do the agility stuff, just like Porter. Well, guess what? When you're at practice, you're doing agility stuff whether you want to or not. And now that the Steelers have had a chance to digest that a little bit and become comfortable with the fact that even if Witherspoon is at a limited spot due to mobility, that, in my opinion, both Porter and Trice have to be ahead of them to do this move. Or you're about to sign another massive corner. There's just not a lot of those left on the market. So when I look at this overall, there's been a lot of, well, what are the Steelers going to be doing with their cap situations? And historically under Colbert, the Steelers were always, don't make a decision until you absolutely have to. So a lot of these thoughts, particularly about people getting cut or moved, in my head were going to happen after the third preseason game as we were approaching final cutdown day. Because that's when you have to do something. That's when Colbert always did his cuts and releases. And to see this happen at this time of the year, it's kind of unique, and it shows that Khan is doing things differently. Now, I do think that this is a great testament for Trice and obviously Porter. I think that the more and more we look into this, my fears I had with Porter was that he was going to be too grabby, was that he's going to be a flag machine, and that all is still possible. I mean, don't take that away. But you wouldn't take one of your potential starter stables out of contention if there was still doubt with Porter. I mean, that's my starting point here. Even if he was nursing an injury, you would have given him the next 3 to 4 months to see if he can show up at Latrobe correctly. So that's why I don't believe that this is much of an injury type thing than it is a more of a testament to Porter and probably Trice as well. Because you don't really get guaranteed money when you show up to camp. You get your guaranteed money when you're on the opening day roster for week 1. So the risk of having someone coming to camp and just not being physically able to do it isn't that great. Unless you knew he was never going to be able to get off the physically unable to perform list, then that's a different discussion altogether. That you have to basically do that before camp starts. And that would make it a medical cut. And we will really truly get that answer if someone else takes him into camp. Because if someone takes him into camp, which I suspect, because of his pedigree, he has the potential, like I said, of being the wild card, of being a complete and utter top-end corner when he's healthy, I think he's going to get a camp invite. And for that reason, it just reinforces the belief that, hey, Steelers believe in this rookie class. And when that's the case, and we look at the potential of this class, it's crazy. And I've been trying to water myself down saying, dude, the rookies, you realize that the failure rate is much, much larger than the draft day expectations. And to give you guys a look-see back at it, you go to the reports from the 2022 draft, number one class without a doubt was the Baltimore Ravens. They got all these corners, they had secondary help. That defense they have in Baltimore is incompetent. And so there's a high bust rate with these guys. That's a fact. We also, in Steelers world, depend much more upon character development and referrals. Herbig is here because of the referral from Watt. Obviously, there's connections to Porter's family. Tomlin fell in love with Broderick Jones going through the process. These are all character sign-off situations. And when we look at this in totality, it really does minimize the failure rate. You know, there's always the possibility of injury. You can't get away with it. But I'm talking about like the mentally, I don't want to put the work in part of it, which does plague a lot of these players. That's why they fail out of the league. You know, maybe the NL license will change this, but it used to be we're rolling the dice on giving a 22-year-olds at minimum 6-figure checks, but if they're a high draft pick, 8-figure checks, and for their signing bonuses, and seeing how they're going to react. Well, prior to the name license thing that the colleges started doing, that was the first real check most of them got in their lives. And some of them didn't handle it well, and some of them did. And that's the bottom line. And that was a major factor in people busting because of draft picks. It is one of the upgrades I do see of the name imaging likeness coming out, is that you're going to get more sustained knowledge about whether a kid will be able to handle money or not. And when we don't think about that kind of thing with a draft pick, but knowing that it's a pretty large reason that draft picks fail, you have to recognize it. You have to do something about it. So the other thing, long story short, that to me tells all of this that the Steelers are very confident in this class. And that more than most teams, I think we're going to get full utilization of potential from this class. The only one that was a draft pick that I think has no real chance is the tackle at the end. So with that being said, I like where this is at. I'm not a fan of getting rid of a wild card. But as I've said many times, you have to trust the doctors. I am not a doctor. I don't want to be a doctor. I fix people's cultures. I don't fix people's legs. That's a fact of life. So if they're saying that Spoon it's still a wild card, that part's a given, and we just think that Trice is better, we think that at the end of the day, Porter is going to give us better results, there's always so many roster spots to go around. You know, I have Poundsy here over my shoulder for a lot of reasons. A, I love the guy, but B, it's a very big offseason reminder. 53 make the roster. That's it. And when we look at this and say, we did that episode on wide receivers a couple days ago about how there's a lot of talent at the wide receiver room. There's also a lot of talent in this outside corner room. And the fact that they don't have a strong slot, and after cutting Millette even made this harder, although I don't think Millette was ever making this team either, it also shows another thing. Spoon was never going to be able to transition into the slot. Porter and Trice have hard times because it's hard to be a tall slot guy because of all that lateral stuff. That's why they didn't do those lateral testings. But if it comes down at the end of the day and saying, you know what, We're going to use Porter here, our outside corner opposite of Peterson. Maybe Peterson's going to be able to slide in as well. And Wallace is also going to learn to slide in. Well, I'm totally okay with that. Because at the end of the day, even the Bengals have either Chase or Higgins outside. And I do think that when it's all said and done, I'd rather, at least for the rookie year, have Porter on Higgins because their body types line up better. But that's the joy of having Porter here. We used to never be able to cover a big guy. I mean, Ike Taylor and AJ Green were some of the best battles ever, but it was only because Ike Taylor was a freak that was able to really happen. I really wish that guy would have had hands. He'd be in the Hall of Fame if he had hands. But that's neither here nor there. The point being is that to have someone bigger than most of the wide receivers he's going to be going against is incredibly rare in the NFL. And in the body type position, we have two of them because Trice is also that big. And I do think Trice's quickest route to being on the field regularly is to be the jack of all trades, show that you can also back up the safety in KZ, show that you can play outside corner on both sides. And if you can get into the slot, all the better. I was excited for the possibility of what Witherspoon could have been. I really like the idea of it. However, as much as I like the idea of it, when Tomlin says you're not going to be good enough to be a Steeler, whoa. That is a stamp of faith and confidence in Porter, but possibly Trice as well. All the doubts I had about Porter, Tomlin's telling me I'm wrong. And at the end of the day, in Tomlin, I trust. So when we look at this and say, we don't need Spoon. And it's not that we don't need Spoon because Spoon has no potential in this league. Spoon is an NFL quality player. He will, assuming he's healthy, he will be on rosters and get significant snaps this season. There is a ton of cornerback rooms that would be an instant upgrade with Spoon, including that one that wears purple and black down south. But he didn't make this team. He didn't make this team in May. This draft class is good, guys. Everything about this move is just screaming. Tomlin is confident. Tomlin is confident in what this team is going to be, and the competitions are going to be fierce. I believe that yesterday or the earlier signing this week of Mason is the same thing. Steelers Nation, for those of you who watched all the way through this video, if you have not already done so, click subscribe. I don't ask for subscriptions a lot, but if you're watching the whole video, you should be a part of the Steelers Nation here at the Syndicate. Check us out. I'll be with you here normally every Wednesday, but obviously with breaking news like today, I like to get it out a little bit sooner. So thank you guys all for watching. And as always, if you guys have someone at one of the Steelers charities, go to the contact page here at Elite Business Conversations and give me that person. I want to have them on the show. I want them to talk about what it is that their charity is doing and how we as Steelers Nation can be involved. Guys, I love the fact that Tomlin is showing strength and confidence. And this is something that's new. Like I said, Cory didn't do these kind of things. This is a new thing. And this might be the new flush out that gets us to the next level, guys. This defense has just had such a stamp of confidence in it. And again, if we don't need to go into a shootout because we can cover Chase and Higgins, we can win this division. Here we go, Steelers. Here we go.